First, we are going to be demonstrating classical conditioning with Molly, my foster dog, and a cheese wrapper. Classical conditioning is a learning process where a subject learns to associate a neutral stimulus with a meaningful stimulus, eventually responding to the neutral stimulus as if it were the meaningful one.
Molly heard this sound and immediately associated it with getting the food, cheese.
So in this case, our unconditioned stimulus was the food, which was cheese. Our unconditioned response was that the dog salivates or gets excited when given food. Our neutral stimulus is that the sound of the cheese wrapper being opened. The conditioned stimulus is over time the sound of the cheese wrapper. And the conditioned response is that the dog salivates or gets excited upon hearing the wrapper sound, even before seeing the food.
Initially, the sound of the cheese wrapper means nothing to the dog, but since we have opened the cheese wrapper before, the sound became associated with her being fed. Eventually, just hearing the cheese wrapper triggers excitement or salivation, even if food doesn't follow. It's a learned behavior. This is essentially how Pavlov's dogs learned to salivate at the sound of a bell that was repeatedly paired with food. There are a couple of reasons why this worked. First is the dog naturally responds to food. The second is after repeated pairings, the brain links the neutral sound with food. And the once neutral sound triggers the same response as food due to association.
Operant conditioning involves learning through consequences. Behaviors are either reinforced, increased, or punished, decreased, based on outcomes.
In this example, we taught Molly how to walk on a leash without pulling or playing with it. To do so, we used operant conditioning by positive reinforcement. When Molly walked on the leash correctly, she would get a treat. If not, she would continue walking without the positive reinforcement. Soon she learned that when walking without playing, she would receive a treat, changing the way she walked in the future.
So the dog learns that its action, walking correctly on the leash, leads to a reward. It voluntarily repeats the behavior to get the positive outcome. This is a goal-directed behavior. The dog performs a specific action to get what it wants. Positive reinforcement strengthens that behavior over time.
There are some key differences between classical and operant conditioning. For the first is the type of behavior. So in classical, it was involuntary, and the fact that Molly salivated was involuntary reflexes, versus operant conditioning, which is all voluntary, and the choices that she made. The learning mechanism is also different. In classical, it's association between stimuli, versus operant, which is consequences of actions. An example of both was the dog salivating to wrapper sound, and the operant conditioning was the treats given to Molly when she walked on the leash correctly.
No dogs were harmed in the process of this video, just leashes.